Welcome back to Field Archaeology 101 in the local Chow Hall. We are enjoying a great meal today in Shreve, Ohio, which is in Wayne County near Worcester, and absolutely enjoying a wonderful little Amish restaurant. This is one of those out of the way ways that you want to make it part of your way because it's wonderful. But I have a point here, and it is this. No matter where you go, what you do, when you're with someone, there's kind of a mentoring and exchanging of feelings, opinions, ideas, life's experiences. And in this case, for me, it's always and especially a big joy to be with field walkers. You guys are my people. And then to have time to sit down on a one-on-one or a small group is even better. So in the vast field of thousands of field walkers, this one popped up. So Suzanne is joining us today. Her home is over toward Canton, Ohio. And but she's put in the time. She's put in hours, just like you, forever walked and found many wonderful artifacts. And even after years, we still have questions, don't we, Suzanne?
Sure, yes.
What is this? What's your opinion? And if you remember, a while back, I said, basically what you're getting is just a consensus of my life's experience, things I've learned along the way, educated opinions, and I'm not claiming to be the final source. I'm just one of them that you can check in on and get an opinion. So what you're going to do today on our YouTube is pretty much just join us in some discussion. We're going to center in on a couple things that she had brought up, and it's one of the questions that you people bring up all the time. And that is blades and knives, end scrapers, straight end scrapers, side scrape. All these things keep coming up from all of you, and I thought we need to address that. So hear me out. I am at this point, I've decided I'm going to do a half-day workshop in Mansfield, Ohio. I'm going to pick out 4 themes. It'll be a 4-hour workshop. I just want you to think about this now. It's coming up down the road, and there'll be probably 4 50-minute sessions, and I need to hear back from you. If you would be interesting, if you'd like to make the drive, probably we can seat around 30, 40 at the most, 30 people, so give it a thought. Well, Suzanne, you've been walking.
Lots of walking.
And let's talk a little bit about knives in general. So I'm just going to bring something up. One of her questions was, well, what are knives? And if you come in here real quick, I'm like, well, let's talk knives. So we got knives. I brought my knife collection in today. And so it might seem a bit odd to have a razor blade here, but the truth is, if I took the blade out, it becomes a knife. And it becomes the cliche, the razor blade knife, which oddly enough, Flint is even sharper than a razor blade when it's first cut. But needless to say, it's a type of knife. So these are knives. And when we're out in the field looking at artifacts, these are knives. These are knives. These are knives. And some of these are combination tools that are used as knives. And we're going to talk a little bit about these things, okay? So the knife word or the theme of a knife might be the umbrella over specifics. So we have knives. We have a knife that would be used as a table knife for butter. We have one with a real, very light serrations on it for a little bit of sawing. And then we have one that's way more scalloped or serrated, so when the prehistoric people pulled their bread out of the fire pit, they could cut it. Probably a meat or fiber cutter. And then you have a very specific, very sharp, almost a razor blade type knife, small, so they could do little specific jobs. And then just for fun, I grabbed a razor this morning. So umbrella is knives, and then we have specifics. We have serrated knives. I haven't forgotten you. I will get to you. I will get to you in a minute. But if you look at the lateral sides, you'll see serrations. Some people call them scallops. I like scallops. I like to look for seashells when I'm in Florida. But needless to say, already, if we look at our lifestyle, we're getting an idea about their lifestyle. able to saw with this specific tool. This is cross-cultural. A lot of this took place in the archaic time period, okay? So specifically a type of serrated point. And but then your knives, like I said, can be big, they can be small, they can be wide, they can be very narrow. And so I thought I need to hone us down a little bit, Suzanne, and get specifics, and we'll jump in here in a minute. So looking at knives, a knife in general can be a uniface or a biface artifact, chipped on both sides or just one side. If we're looking at a uniface, then we're getting into blades, okay? And I think the general consensus among academics nationwide on blades are to all speak the same language, probably a ratio of, for every one width that is wide, it's 2 long. If it's 2 wide, then it's like 4 or 5 long, okay? Always much longer than it is wide, and that puts it into the blade category. So with that in mind, where did these blades, let's get down to the roots of things, and the blades came from somewhere. And if you want to understand the diversity of blades, I'm so glad that you're talking so much.
Oh, which is very rare for me, by the way, because usually I would have a lot to say.
Warning, your time is coming. Well, let's talk about this. There was an origin. There was a place, a beginning for these blades. And I brought this, and maybe some of you haven't given it a whole lot of thought. But if you want to understand what's in your field, when you're walking and picking up what we call just debris or debitage or chips or flakes or whatever like that, look for their origins. And I brought in some origins. And this is a gorgeous, high quality, probably the highest quality gray flint coming out of Coshocton County. This is a core, people. And I know I need to do a video, and I will, on course. But look at this. Where are the long, narrow flake scars? Anybody see long, narrow flake scars? Do you see long, narrow flake scars over here? No, you don't. What we see are flake scars, but these look like chips. Multiplicities of chips. Right here is a platform, but chips. Let me bring in another one. This is gorgeous flint. We find it in Coshocton County. A lot of people might say it's maybe Zaleski flint. Beautiful flint. But if we look at him, where are the long, narrow flake scars? There's a couple, but the majority of these are flake scars. So what we're looking at is the origin of our knives. We need to understand where they came from, and then we can talk about the knife. If I add to that, and I'm going to add to that with 2 very cool specific cores. I don't know, can you come in and let everybody take a peek at these cores? We've got 2 things going on right here. This one is older, and it's pushing early archaic, but it's in a haystack position. It's been struck, the blades came around the parameter, and they all kind of point toward the middle. Not uncommon for late paleo, all the way up to early Adena. Okay, and here's another one, but this is kind of like a trapezoidal type core. Gramley does a good job describing these in his paleo artifact book. But you'll notice that we have a platform here, a platform here. Biggest one on the bottom, small one here. But all the blade removal goes up and it ends all the way around here, creating kind of a specific geometric shape. Okay, another type of core, another type of core, 2 more cores. But you know what? Where are all the the blades, the long, narrow blades? So what happens was, and I'm going to sneak here in front of the camera, a man who most of us know or knew, and I feel very comfortable calling him the father of Ohio archaeology. I really don't know anybody that would refute that. Bob wrote a section in here on cores, and his cores are beautiful. They're Flint Ridge, and they're pretty much Hopewell, just like I showed you one here a minute ago, with a long, narrow flake scars, blade scars. Okay, this is a Hopewell core. I have one more I'm going to hold up here so you can see them. And Flint Ridge is a wide range of beautiful colors, but look how trained, how parallel these blade scars are on these cores. Okay, you know what? In the whole scheme of cores, all the cores that are out there, cross-cultural, cross-millennial, starting with paleo and running into the late woodland, the majority of all the cores are not these. These are the minority, the vast minority. We're looking at everything from paleo, moving into archaic, and even late woodland, where they were removing flakes. Now that's interesting. And that's worth thinking about. And it's, why are we not finding flakes that show evidence of being tools? So we're going to just take a 1-minute break. Let us get reorganized and we'll come right back, okay? So what's interesting, when you mentor in a restaurant, are all the running arounds and going ons, and someone just went to the restroom and saw an arrowhead on the back of somebody's hat. We're in Corncob County right now. We are in the boonies. And it's wonderful, loving every minute of it. So, Suzanne, tell me what you got here. What are we looking at?
Okay, so first, let's start. I'm a novice. I have been field walking for, good 25, 30 years plus. But I told Mark, blades, lancelets, knife blades, the terminology all becomes mixed, and it becomes a little bit difficult for me to sort a specific knife or blade. I do understand blades. So I told Mark I would bring what I think are my best knives or blades, or lancelets or whatever. And I brought the largest ones because I've watched Mark's videos and I like bigger pieces. So I brought my biggest knives.
That's because she's only 4 foot 6
now
inches
I'm slightly
tall.
taller than that. But so I brought 4 of what I would say are my nicest, again, Northeast Wayne County, high quality
They're
Flint
beautiful.
knives.
They're beautiful.
And I call them knives. Mark's going to have add to that, I'm sure. But I find them fairly regularly. I didn't bring that one that was I found in May. But
Okay.
this one and this one are a bit different. This one is not finely worked. You can see it is somewhat, I call it chunky chips, not really fine, but yet some almost a little bit uniface. And I think maybe they were on their way to make something else with this. And then they said, wow, this is a beautiful knife. And someday Suzanne will find me and find it a good home. And there it is.
Would you like me to jump in?
Not yet. And then I found this one because once Mark jumps in, then I'm done. This is an interesting tool. I don't have anything like it. At first I thought, well, maybe it's broke. And then I looked closer and I realized I think this is every bit of a knife that was held in this direction and used lovingly.
Good.
Then I have this one, which is really unique. It is got a small little stem, slightly notched. Mark will give you all of the exact details. But I remember when I found this, I actually thought, table knife, this is a beautiful knife. And then this one, not quite the highest quality flint, but large. And when you can find something in the area where I live that is this large and not broken, this is bingo. It just doesn't happen very often. There's a lot of heavy machinery. So as often as I can find large pieces, it's a good day.
Yeah. Hey, my eyes are going over here. What you got? What you got
there? This one you want to talk about, so I will let you talk about this. I found this just in May, this past May.
All right, let me jump in for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
This is probably a similar scenario to all of you. It looks like a broken flake, a broken blade, a broken piece of flint. And if you don't clean them up, now you know me, when I collect, I collect. I'm not cleaning stuff in the field, I bag it. But when I get home, that's when I start cleaning it. So I'm looking at this piece. It could just be a flake or blade or something laying in your field. Immediately I noticed that the flint probably is what we call Van Port, and that's getting to the geologic name of this time period, this flint. But there's outcroppings in Flint Ridge, Ohio, Newark, but there's also outcroppings near West Lafayette in Coshocton County. And I'm betting with her location that this came up out of Coshocton. So this is the Flint Ridge coming out of Coshocton. But anyway, my point being is, when I start to look at this, and I don't know if this will help to put this up behind it, but you're going to see some scalloping, some serrations going down this edge. And better than that is this little place right here below my thumbnail. This is a little concaved area where they had a scraper. Now the question becomes, did this break originally? Are we looking at prehistoric breaks? And the answer is yes. And then because of the scarcity of flint in that part of Ohio, like our parents during the Depression, they made everything last. If it broke, they picked it up and they worked it into something else. That's what I think happened right here. This is beautifully worked. The retouch is very gorgeous. And we have a nice little scraper. I would be looking at these corners to see if these were used as engravers. That'd be my next move. I think this is a broken / hole artifact. Okay, I want to look at that black thing you got over there.
So this is considered a blade. So back to the blades. This is a retooled blade with multi-purpose use.
Suzanne will be teaching the course here.
No, she will not be. She will not be. Go ahead. You want to see that? Yeah.
Okay. This is what is so much fun, looking at people's collections. And probably my YouTube on rollovers and overshots is worth looking at 207 times.
and you still may struggle to understand the difference. But.
Okay, so this is what we call an overshot, and you'll see where the blade comes up, it rolls, and it ends like into a lip right there. And I made my case that I feel these are tools that were reshaped into a very specific tool that we would expect in a tool kit. We've got a overshot, and if you look at the two lateral end corners, they're gone. They're gone. Damaged, and this has been re-chipped and reworked. Why? Because this is nearly unbreakable, and they could use these for rip and tear. They could use them for scratching, and they did. And the percentages of these with damaged corners is way over 95%. Look at the flint, people.
It's a beautiful, yeah, and it is unusual. In my area, we find some of this kind of flint, but of course, when this is wet, this is like, if you miss this, you should probably not be out in the field because it's that shiny.
And it's one of Ohio's treasures. You know, we have Flint Ridge flint, but we have other flint that is equally as beautiful on its own. And whether it's the deep black Coshocton or the Zaleski, it's noteworthy. So let's real quickly touch on a few of these. I like this piece right here. We've got two distinct edges, knife edges. This is a multi-purpose knife. But if you look, it's a biface. If you look at this edge right here, and I'm going to roll him back and forth. No, we're not going to need that.
Okay, don't need it.
I'm going to roll him back and forth. Look at this edge and this edge. This was worked right down to a razor blade once again, coming from its initial origin. Okay, but compare and contrast this to these larger flake removals on the other side. We have two distinct knife edges. Remember the kitchen knives I showed you a minute ago? Okay, this would be like two of those knives. So high quality, very high quality flint with two different knife edges on it, Suzanne. This is a wonderful find.
So question, why did they put this small little leg on it? It always baffles me, like, okay, so this was clearly a tool they were going to use, and yet they finished it with this very specific.
So my real quick projection was this whole thing was rounded, but through use it broke, it chipped, it broke, they reworked. But this was the point, or the knife was actually rounded. These are damaged that got reworked.
Do you think it was was it at one time this symmetrical? That would be, I guess, that would be a question I would
Okay,
say.
not this type. We're looking at probably two different cultures here, but this would have been perfectly rounded, and through damage and use and break it broke, and they simply reworked it. And I can see flake scars on here that tell me that it was. And even the rework here is totally different than here and here. Okay, this is like a nice piece, really nice piece. This was one that you picked up,
Yes.
and I'm so glad you did, because I trapped beaver for a long time in my life, and you use a totally different kind of tool to scrape a beaver hide, and you better sit down for an hour or two if you're going to work on one hide. But what we've got is a blade, a curved blade right here. You look, okay, it's a biface. It's been worked this side and this side, rounded. If I turn him over this way, we've got kind of a blunt end, and she was right. And this may have been hafted like this, and this may have been a cutting tool, which is the way you scrape a beaver. You're actually cutting the flesh, the fat, and all the stuff right off the hide like that. More than likely, looking at this, we have a complete piece right here. It looks odd, but I think it's complete. This, when you look at it, everybody, what's your first thought? Look at it, look at the color, the material. In general, your first thought.
So
First thought.
I would say it looks like an Adena blade. It looks like a leaf-shaped blade.
Okay. Could be. We recognize the leaf shape on it. But you know what? It had to get to this point.
Right.
Through stages of preforms. Preform stage 1, stage 2. Some people think there's 6 stages. Some think there's 7. But each one is getting it closer and closer to the final product. And then from there, they made the choice. Is it going to become a notched piece or a very specific piece? Now, when I look at this one, once again, I'm looking at the 2 lateral sides of this biface. And if I look at this side, these are large percussion, pretty much chips removed off this edge. I'm going to flip him over, and you can still see the big flake scars coming off of this one, okay? Let's contrast this side to this side. Look at the intimate work. And these are almost parallel, important people, almost parallel. I'm going to turn them over. Let's look at the other side, almost parallel. And here we go again. These are very specifically made, nearly parallel. Suzanne, I think you have a paleo knife here.
Wow.
I think
I do not have a lot of paleo, so this would be a nice
find.
Nice
Yeah,
find.
it is. Is there any last 1 or 2 pieces you want us to look at?
Oh, I don't know. I have I brought a variety of sizes of things.
And while she's looking, for a lot of us, again, this could easily be passed over when you're walking and looking for arrowheads. Remember, a lot of these are dirty unless you've had rain on them. And it could be passed over as just a chip that might have come off of something like this. And Suzanne brought up a really good question. Then why aren't we finding these in the fields? Good question. It could be that these were knocked off and just used down to nubbies.
Yes.
And then discarded.
Yes.
Could be one of the reasons why we're not finding them. In her area,
yes.
Flint is scarce.
Yes.
So they used it down to the very edge. In my area, chip, chip, chip,
yes.
chip,
Yes, bags
Flint everywhere. This just reminds me of a flake, a chip removed from a core like that. But when you clean them up and look them over, I see beautiful flake scars going up and down off of the cone of percussion. And I see little edges worked on it. So this is a little tiny, probably a uniface knife, okay?
And I brought that just because a little contrast, not a usual color of Flint that I find.
All right.
But it does add a little bit of, I don't know, conversation, I guess, because it is very high quality, very similar to this.
Okay, it is. And let's just for fun, let's just lay them out here together like that. Obviously, 2 counties, 3 counties away.
Yeah, somebody carried that a good distance.
But needless to say, we're looking at a uniface piece with the limited work going on one side. This looks like a multi-purpose tool to me. And first thing I do when I pick these things up, I try to establish where is the cone of percussion. and then I want to go to the polar opposite end, and that usually gives me an idea what I'm dealing with a tool. It looks to me that, and I'm looking for smileys right now, these ripples coming out, that this could indeed be the cone right here with retouch, because this is going to be unbreakable right here. So we have one tool right here, a possible broken engraver right there at my fingernail. Remember, these things are laying in a field, and it could be they were used up and they just quit using them, or they never resharpened this engraver,
Or they lost them.
or they had kids
They played with them and lost them.
like my kids. But so we have multiple little knife edges, places on it where it's been retouched, and different kinds of tools. And even if we look up here, we see oh good, I see a smiley right there. Remember me talking about the ripple effect? If you throw a stone in water, ripples go out. And if you follow them backwards, it'll lead you to the core or to the cone. So the cone is down here, and I do see the ripples, and I see an edge that was put on right here. This is a great piece, high quality flint.
Yes.
And they did not want to get rid of this. So
No.
it just,
Right.
it evolves. I don't like the word evolve, but it morphoses into another tool,
Right.
another
It's
tool.
just like what we would do
as needed.
if you were at home and you needed something, and of course you can't find what you need, so you find the next best thing and you just keep using, and they just kept using and using. So
And in everybody's collection, we have these. We know that they're been flattened, worked, they have their form, they have their shape. But the question is, what is it? And so it goes right back to, are we dealing with a uniface or biface? This is a biface. It's been chipped from both sides, work chippage on both sides. I'm seeing field damage right here, field damage there, right there. These are plow disc damage. However, over here, this is prehistoric.
the notch.
It's a prehistoric. And it could be that they created engravers right here and right here. Now, I'm going to throw this one out at you. For those of you who have walked a long time like me and found slate and cleaned it up, you've seen a lot of parallel lines, and everybody says the same thing. How did they do that? Well, you know what? We have a point here, a point here. I'm going to take it, set it down on a piece of slate, and pull it. I'm going to have two parallel lines that these engravers would have helped me, lay out. Now, what they were making, I don't know. But the question is, what's going on with this piece? So I see the final retouch that tells me that regardless of the state that this thing was used, and I see big, massive flakes, kind of like the last stage preform, which I think that we have, final stage preform, but I see little things like up here that tell me I have a scraper right there.
Definitely.
So it was a finished preform that went right into a tool. It wasn't in a cache. This went into a tool. And we have a scraper up here. We have engravers right there.
And again, really unusual in the area where I surface hunt to find anything this large, which that kind of makes me think that, and I'm just questioning, would have they used a piece this large, these small things on a piece this large?
Yes.
Do you understand? My
Yes.
question is, so if you have something this large and this is precious, I'm not finding this every day, somebody brought this in. So would have they made such a small tool on such a large piece of flint?
Good question.
So
Good question.
okay.
And I know that a lot of you have found the same thing, and we've all asked the same questions. And at some point, we look for anything that will talk to us, any diagnostic information. And if you get this through your head, that a piece of flint was not sculpted into a one type tool. They changed as the needs arose. There's an archaeologist out west that used a hunk of obsidian, knocked off a spall, used one spall, that's it, to skin, scrape, cut up, process an entire buffalo. One spall.
Okay.
And he just napped it into different, same thing, but into different tools as he needed it to work on that buffalo. And so if you keep that in the back of your mind, they're working these things for what they needed at the time. This is high quality flint, and I'm going to make it last. And unfortunately, there's never enough time to hang out with you folks, which says certainly we'll be back with more information. But I wanted to bring in a field walker with you folks today and see that someone else feels your same pain.
No, there's no place else I'd rather be, actually. So.
Yeah. So bottom line is thanks again for traveling with us. We'll be back. And give some thought to that idea of a half-day workshop in Mansfield, Ohio. I want to hear back from you. And have a great day, everybody.